I think just staying steady and trying to, block out the outside noise is a big thing for coaches to understand and try to learn.
Okay, so my idea with this podcast, what I want to do is I want to interview coaches like around the county and the state, because I think there's like so many teachers that are coaches or like PE teachers or use sports in their daily education that like just helps the kids beyond like the normal classroom. So let's start with you. All right, so you're a PE teacher in Gaston County. But before we get to that, let's talk about like your journey. So like when you were younger, what kind of kid were you? Like, were you into sports? Like, what were you like when you were younger?
Yeah. So I started out at a young age, 4 or 5 years old. I was ready to play. We played all kinds of sports. I had 3 brothers growing up. So all 4 of us were into sports. I started out, the soccer. Everybody starts out with soccer, basketball, and then we got into, I think, 2nd grade. I started tackle football, and then we just played sports year round ever since then. And then I grew a love for sports, and then once I got a little older, I started. I was a youth counselor in high school. And then right after high school, I was a youth counselor. So I was always with kids and stuff. So I always grew a passion with kids and sports. So what better way than to be a PE teacher? So
perfect. So I always say this thing, like, I think sports are like a microcosm of life. Like, I think like when you see something, like you're watching a game, right? And you see something happen, you're like, that's just like how life is. Like there's always something that you connect from sports into your daily life. So like as you were younger and you were like playing sports, did you ever feel like this, like just like an attachment? Because you said like you played year round. Like you never mentioned though, like you played baseball year round, or you played soccer year round, you played football year round. Was there just like an attachment for you, like just to sports? And like, did you see the connection with sports and like just like life? Like it was almost like it was natural.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we played all kinds of sports all year. So we'd start, soccer, football, then we played basketball, then we played baseball. So it was never the same sport growing up, and we didn't do travel ball or anything like that. So it was never year round. But we just played each sport just to get accustomed to which one we liked, and grew a passion for sports. And my dad was a big sports guy with Panthers and Tar Heels, so I kind of just followed his footsteps with the teams and stuff.
So you mentioned the Tar Heels, and obviously you grew up in the Tar Heel state. So like, was there a coach or like somebody specific? Like, I know it's easy to say Michael Jordan, like that's a good, like an easy athlete in North Carolina to say Michael Jordan, but like think about like beyond that. Like, is there a specific coach or like somebody involved with sports that like when Coach Bowen was 7 and 8, like he really looked up to, and that was like, oh, that's a guy that's going to probably affect the rest of my life?
At a young age, there's none that pop off the top of my head right now. But my dad really loved Dean Smith. So he had a bunch of stories with Dean Smith about his coaching philosophies and stuff with North Carolina and how he would coach the teams. And he had some really good teams, 82, 93 national championship teams, even with Michael Jordan. So, but I can't really think of any that off the top of my head that I really loved.
No, that's good. So you mentioned being a youth counselor. Like, what inspired you to like become the PE teacher? Like, why did you go that route, like into education? Like, you could have went the route and tried to be like a guy that wants to be like maybe a Division III coach or, you know, somewhere along those lines, because you didn't have like the playing experience to jump right into Division I. But like, why did you go the route of let me become a teacher?
My mom always taught. So she taught for 45 years, I think. So I always grew up with my mom, and always she always told me about her teaching her classes she taught and stuff like that. So I kind of just related the sports to the teaching, and then that become a attraction, I'd say, to teaching PE.
All right, so we'll jump into your career in just a second, but what has it been like for you? Like, what's the most, I guess, rewarding experience that you've had so far? Like it doesn't have to be like involved with you being a PE teacher. Like, it can even go back to like you being a youth counselor. Like, what has been the most rewarding thing for you?
I think the biggest thing that I strive myself with is building relationships with students. I think that builds kids' self-esteem, that builds kids' confidence. And the first few years that I was working PE or working as a teacher for PE, you know, I worked in an area where some students didn't have very much. So building those relationships with those students at school, I felt really helped them grow their confidence and self-esteem as they got older.
Have you coached like any sports outside of school?
I coached a 13 to 15-year-old basketball team in Gaston County last year with a buddy. And then I helped one of my best friends. He's got a 7-year-old son, and I helped coach with him their 8U baseball team this past fall, and we're about to start it back up in the spring. So looking forward to that.
Nice. All right. So being in the classroom now and being in the PE world, what is translated for you from sports like into the classroom? Like, what have you taken from either your days on the field or even your days like coaching with your buddy or doing any of that connects in the classroom for you?
Resilience, teamwork. Those are two things that I've noticed from sports that carry on into the PE gym, PE classroom. You know, just making sure they know like they're good, like keep their good attitudes, and so like try to build each other up instead of kick each other down during like winning and losing and things like that. Because at a young age, you don't really know what winning or losing can do for other people as far as their self-esteem and their confidence moving on to the next, you know, the next sport or the next league or whatever that may be. So I think just teaching them the teamwork and the resilience of, you know, never giving up and the sportsmanship so that they understand to be a good teammate when they're outside of the PE world or outside of the PE class. They're, you know, on the baseball teams, on the football teams, and stuff like that.
So you brought up a good thing about like the teamwork. So like I see it all the time in the classrooms. Like I'm like me and you are a little different with this perspective of like you get to see the sports side of the kids all the time, right? And I see like inside the classroom. But like my question for you is, can you see like in the kids like sometimes like you watch them in and like even if they're a really good athlete in class, you could see like, all right, this kid's going to turn out to be like a really good star just based on like his attitude and the way he is, or vice versa. Like it's not going to work out for him because of his attitude and how he is. Cause I see that all the time in the classroom. It's like, I see kids that are like, yeah, you're really smart. You have the intelligence. I could see you on like a football field or a baseball field, but then I see the little things like you don't work well with others, or you're not coachable, or like you don't coach others up. And, you know, like, so I see all that and I'm like, man, that's probably not going to work out for you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing that I think about is like when we were playing a game, or we're playing teaching a sport, playing kickball outside, doing whatever. You kind of notice the students that don't take losing very well, and then
Yep.
I always think about those students like, man, nobody wants to be on your team, because you're kind of just going to be harping on other people instead of taking accountability for yourself. So I always notice, and I try to tell students all the time, like nobody wants to play with a student that has an attitude after every loss, and try to build their self-esteem and get them to understand that teamwork and uplifting others is more important than winning and losing.
So I grew up a Jets fan. I'm a Panthers fan now, but I spent 36 years like rooting for the Jets and just a disaster. But one thing I took away from it, and I've heard like a lot of people say this, is like there's something about like the climb. Like it's easy to be like a team. Like it's almost easy to be a Chiefs fan right now, and it's easy when I was in high school to be a Patriots fan. Like it's just easy. But like there's something about the climb. So like is it like, and you're a Panthers fan like I am now, and it's like we're in that same thing. Like me and you've talked all year, like it's getting exciting now because like we're seeing Bryce, like we're seeing the development, like you kind of see like the future for like the next couple of years. Like do you agree with me with that? Like there's something about the climb, like if there's like as much as it may stink and suck right now, there's something to be said about it's great to have this like adversity in your face.
Right. Yeah. Especially with the Panthers now, like right now at this given time. I mean, finishing the year out good with Bryce, and it just shows that I think they're on the right step. And that climb is what brings you back to being a fan for that team, and it gives you hope for the next season.
Is there any strategy you think from like playing sports or just being involved with sports or coaching or even stuff that you do in PE that maybe like other teachers should do like in their classroom? Like, is there something that you think like there's like an approach? Like, I'll give you an example of something that I just had a conversation with somebody today at school about this. Like, I am a firm believer in you play how you practice. So like when we're doing stuff in class, like even if it's just math, right? And you have a habit of doing something wrong and you go, oh, I realize, but I won't do it on the test. You're going to do it on the test because you're practicing it right now. So it's going to happen in the game. Like if it's going to happen in the game when the game comes. So like, is there anything like that you think of like you do this all the time in your classroom and it would probably be beneficial to other teachers to do it?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of like start signals for MPE class, just so they know, this is when you stop. You got to listen to more directions before you get back and play. And one thing I do is my turn, your turn. When I say my turn, that means sit down, hands off the equipment, listen, and then I'll say your turn. When the music starts, it's your turn, and I say your turn. You can get back up, grab the equipment, and keep playing. And I think that carries over to the classroom too. When a teacher, comes up and says, all right, I need everybody to listen and be quiet. And then I think that may get them thinking like, okay, Coach Bowen does that in PE. I probably should be quiet and listen to my teacher. And then it'll be my turn to, do the assignment or whatever it may be. And I think that helps them out with their, working with each other too, because you don't want to be a student that is talking after I said my turn, and then you get a consequence, and then everybody else is, looking at you, staring at you. So I think it also carries in the classroom by getting them to understand that, being quiet and listening is a cool thing to do. It's not, you don't have to be the class clown. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So along that line about the class clown and trying to get, stop kids from being that, like when there's always like the joke kind of at school, like specialist and itinerates, like you guys have the easy thing because the kids want to go to you, like, and there's always the argument, like PE, especially for the boys, like the boys want to go to you. But I can make the argument to you too. It's just as hard, and you're going to have the off days with these kids. Like the kids aren't going to want to be there. I mean, we know kids, that no matter what the situation, the perfect world, there's still going to be little pains in the butts in certain situations. Like, do you find it hard, like, to motivate kids? Like sometimes, like, even though everybody's saying, oh, it's PE, they got to love PE.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you never know what a student may be going through outside of PE class, whether that be in the school or at home or, with a friend, so it is hard to motivate some students that, may not have everything going for them. And I try to differentiate like different lessons to those students to get them more motivated. So if somebody doesn't want to play hockey and they don't want to use a puck, I try to give them other options, maybe a ball, maybe whatever they're comfortable with. That way I can try to get them to do something. And even if they don't like hockey at all, maybe they could see how many times they can keep a balloon up in the air or keep a beach ball up in the air, something to build their self-esteem and want to be there and actually be motivated in the classroom or in PE class.
All right, last one before we jump into some rapid fire stuff. What's the ultimate goal that you want kids to take away from like your class? Like whether it's day to day or just like at the end of the year, like what do you want them to leave there going, all right, this is what I took from Coach Bowen?
I think the biggest thing is building relationships with each other. They're with each other all day long, most of the time. So I think, building that class rapport with each other, it goes a long way when they're moving on to different things, like maybe lunch, recess. Maybe they don't want to work with one of their classmates, but in PE, I try to get everybody to work with each other. So I think that might start something that would be good for them later on in art class or at recess or in Mr. Lee's class, and things like that.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in like you got to get like comfortable with being like uncomfortable, because it's like I always tell the kids, it's like the world, like when you're out in the real world, like there's no choices. You're going to work with a bunch of people you don't want to work with. You're not going to get along necessarily with people that all the time, but you can't go around like just fighting with people. Like you can't, like you just can't.
I mean, you're there 7 hours. I mean, just be nice to each other. You can be nice to each other for 7 hours.
Yes,
I believe in
you. It's not the end of the world. All right, a little rapid fire here. Favorite sports movie of all time?
Favorite sports movie? It's got to be I'm drawing a blank here. The football movie. What's it called? What's the famous football movie? Remember the Titans. That's it. Yep.
Okay. All right. I was wondering if you're going to – I knew it was going to be a football movie. I wasn't sure if it was going to be that or Friday Night Lights. See, I felt like –
I really like Remember the Titans, and I really like The Replacements. I think The Replacements is the classic.
All right. Good one. If you could coach any professional sports, we'll start there. If you could coach any professional sports, what would it be? Like what? NFL, NBA,
college basketball.
College basketball?
College
basketball. Yep. And then that leads me to my second question. What would the team be?
The Tar Heels.
Yeah, I figured. Yeah. I had a feeling that's where I was going to go. All right. I kind of asked you this earlier. Go ahead.
I mean, I love college basketball and basketball in general. And I think I wasn't ever very good at basketball, but I think I know more about basketball than any other sport, as far as X and O's and like playing the game of basketball and watching the game of basketball for so long. Yep. So I think that would be the best for me to coach.
Well, there's also that saying too: players play, coaches coach, managers manage, owners own. So it's just like one of those things. Like, if you're a good player doesn't mean you be a good coach, And just because you're
There's so
coach,
many good coaches that weren't very good players, like all over the world. I mean, all over the NFL, NBA, wherever.
What's the most inspiring athlete in your opinion?
Inspiring athlete. The first one that comes to mind is probably Michael Jordan. I'm a big LeBron James guy.
Okay.
He's never got in trouble. He's always done the right thing. I mean, he's done it for so long at a high level. So one of those. I mean, everybody bashes LeBron because they have the GOAT debate or whatever. But I think on the basketball court, like stuff off the basketball court, okay, you can have your differences about that. But on the basketball court and like in his everyday life, he's very, very good at what he does. And he's never been in trouble. And I think that's huge in professional sports because you don't see that all the time.
No, and I agree with you too. Like there's something like anything can happen on the court. Like there's a million guys that are great that like, but they always tell you like, don't meet your hero, you know, like don't run into some of these guys. And like, I can tell you some stories about seeing different players and stuff and like situations I've been in, but like LeBron's one of those guys for a guy at his caliber for being, I think he's a billionaire, right? Or close to being a billionaire, like, and how he got there and like where he came from, like Akron, Ohio, and like his background and like all these things that could have gone wrong, I guess, like in his life, you know, from friend, you know, I'm sure like he could have gone down the drugs route or he could have gone down just crime route or like any of that, or you never hear about like anything marital with him, like with his, like, there's just like, that's very, like you said, it doesn't happen. Like there's
now he's
like,
playing with his son on the same team. So I mean, that's unheard of.
It's
and
like
then another one that just popped up is Cam Newton. I mean, what he's done for the city of Charlotte while he's been here is very, very inspiring. Like the way you see that stadium when he was playing the games in 2015 there and how he affected kids. I mean, giving a game ball to a kid every game, every time he scored, that was just pretty awesome as a PE teacher to see. And that was one heck of a year for us.
Well, think even like when he came back, right? So when he left and went to New England, and then he came back for that year with Darnold. Like, I mean, he packed the stadium.
The whole stadium, right?
For
then
a guy
scored on the very first.
Yeah,
I think he scored on the very first drive or something.
What's a must-have snack or meal like on a day of like a game or like a sporting event? Like, what do you have to eat?
I'm a big Oreo guy. So I like Oreos. You got to have some Oreos.
I like it. All right. What advice would you give to aspiring coaches?
Advice I'd give to aspiring coaches, probably to try to stick with it. You know, your ups and downs can be so crazy when you coach a sport, when you coach young kids, even in PE. Your ups and downs can be so, you know, like down the totem pole, up the totem pole, whatever. So I think just staying steady and trying to, you know, block out the outside noise is a big thing for coaches to understand and try to learn.
I like that. I might even use that with the kids, like block out the outside noise. Like I always do the 4-quarter thing. Like I think of the year as like 4 quarters, and it's like, yeah, we might have had like a bad day or a bad week or a bad month, but that's the first quarter. It's like we still have the whole year. We still have like, you can have a bad moment and still win. You know, they play 4 quarters. Like they don't play.
I mean, even like that, the first person I think of about blocking out the noise would be Bryce Young. I mean, just look at the guy, like all the things. He's the worst. He's the worst number 1 overall pick ever. Blah, 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 blah. He got benched and he just, you know, blocked out the outside noise and just worked his butt off. And look at him now. He's pretty much a franchise quarterback, and he's going to be with Carolina for a long time. Hopefully we'll have a good year next year. So
what year of teaching is this for you?
This is year 8.
I started out as
year 8. I started out as a TA. I couldn't find any PE jobs right after college, and then I got to Pleasant Ridge, worked there 6 years, and this is my first year at Pinewood. So,
what's next for you? Like, what's the goal? Like, what's the end goal?
I think the end goal is just try to connect with as many kids as I can, build relationships with as many kids as I can, and I think dive in and help out with other people is a huge thing. I feel like one of my biggest philosophies is as a teacher is try to help as many people as I can, whether that be help them with small things at school, help them with understanding how to build relationships with others, just the small things that might help someone else out and might lean off to some of the stress from other teachers, other kids, things like that.
I know I said last question, but here's the last one. Where do awards fall into your life? Like, are you an awards guy? Like, is teacher of the year like a goal for you, or is that like you don't even care? Like, I don't care. I don't care at all.
I mean, I think it would be awesome to get that.
Right.
I mean, but I don't think I'm working towards that goal. But that would be a pretty cool honor.
Like, I guess my question really is like, are you a team guy or are you a stats guy? Like, are you the guy that all right, how do I, and I say this because there's nothing wrong with either one of them if you do it the right way, but because I don't want it to sound like if you don't say you're a team guy, it's bad. Like, that's not what I mean. Like, you're either way is fine as long as you do it the right way. But my point is like, is your goal, like, is your thoughts like, all right, I'm Coach Bowen driven today. Like, I'm worried about my PE class. I'm worried about this. I'm worried about this. My next goal is this. Or are you kind of like, all right, what's good for the school? What's good for the county? What's good?
I think I'm a team. Yeah, I think I'm big on team. I try to help wherever is needed, and I just feel like that helps others, and that leans the stress off other people that might be having a hard day that need some help, or you never know what other people are going through. So if I can lend a hand, then I feel confident in what I can do.